The accounts for this month are completely wrong.
Since when does a cleaner understand village finance?
I have watched you steal for 6 months.
Where did you get that expensive gadget, thief?
Chief, tell her who actually pays your salary.
My lord, we did not expect you today.
You are the billionaire founder from the city?
Cleaning your mess was my final test.
Every morning, he arrived before the gates were fully open, his faded lemon-yellow janitor's jumpsuit already marked with stains that refused to leave, the fabric hanging loosely on his frame as though it carried the weight of every day he had been ignored. The compound was quiet at that hour, the kind of silence that allowed him to hear everything, the distant hum of a generator, the rustle of papers left carelessly on desks, the faint echo of voices from the previous day lingering in memory. He carried his battered grey bucket and wooden handled mop like tools of routine, but to him, they were something else entirely. They gave him access, they made him invisible, and invisibility, he quickly realized, was power, but it came at a cost, because to be unseen was also to be disrespected, dismissed, and treated as though he did not exist at all. By the time the executives began to arrive, he had already cleaned half the building, yet they walked past him without acknowledgement, their polished shoes leaving faint marks on the floors he had just mopped, some even stepping deliberately through wet patches without care, forcing him to redo work they never noticed. Others spoke loudly on their phones, their voices filled with arrogance, their tones sharp and entitled, while a few didn't bother lowering their voices even when discussing things that should have remained hidden. "Move aside," one snapped once, brushing past him so hard the bucket nearly tipped over, water spilling across the floor as laughter followed behind. Another tossed a stack of papers onto a desk he had just cleaned and muttered, "You people are too slow," as if he were part of a group beneath dignity. No apology, no glance back. To them, he was not a man, he was a tool. For 6 months, he listened, and the deeper he listened, the darker the truth became. He learned who inflated numbers to hide missing funds and who signed documents without reading them, who created fake expenses and buried them under layers of approval, and who knowingly passed those documents along because they were benefiting from the system. He had quiet conversations where deals were made behind closed doors, voices lowered not out of caution but out of habit, as though deception had become routine. "Split it between departments, no one will notice," someone whispered one afternoon, unaware that the man wiping the glass behind him had every word. "Just add it to operational cost," another said casually, as though stealing from the company was no different from adjusting a receipt. There was always a pattern, always a trail, and he followed it patiently, storing every detail without writing anything down. At the center of it all was the executive, confident, composed, always dressed in vibrant Ankara that demanded attention the moment she entered a room, her presence sharp, her voice controlled, but often cutting. She carried authority like a weapon, using it to silence others, redirect blame, and maintain control over decisions no one dared question. In meetings, she was precise and commanding, but outside them, she was careless, her words revealing more than she intended. "Adjust the figures before submission," she once said, not noticing him mopping quietly behind her chair. No one checks these things deeply, and the ease with which she said it made it clear this was not the first time. Another day, she laughed with a colleague, her tone light, but her meaning heavy. As long as the chief signs it, it becomes official, her voice carrying a confidence that came from knowing the system would protect her. The chief, unlike her, was quieter, his presence calm and dignified as he walked through the office with measured steps, his white agbada flowing behind him, his ebony walking stick tapping softly against the floor. He rarely raised his voice, rarely questioned what was placed before him, and though he did not steal or manipulate, his trust became a shield for those who did. He believed the structure was intact, that the people beneath him were doing their jobs with integrity, and because of that belief, he unknowingly signed off on decisions that carried hidden truths. The cleaner noticed that too, not with judgment, but with clarity, understanding that not all harm comes from intention, some comes from silence. He noticed everything, the junior staff who lowered their eyes when something felt wrong, the ones who whispered concerns but never acted on them, the few who tried to speak up but were quickly shut down by authority. "Don't involve yourself in what doesn't concern you," one was told sharply, his voice silenced before it could rise again. Fear lived in the corners of the office, quiet but present, and it shaped behavior just as much as power did. Through it all, he remained the same, quiet, steady, invisible. Even when they spoke to him harshly, their words cutting without thought. "Cleaner, are you deaf? I said come here." One backed across the room, drawing attention as others watched without intervening. Another pushed a chair toward him with their foot and said, "Clean under this properly, not like yesterday," even though he had done it twice already. Sometimes they spoke about him as though he wasn't there at all. People like him should be grateful for this kind of job, one said, not lowering his voice. Each moment, each word, each action added to what he already knew. He never reacted, not because he lacked pride, but because reaction would have broken the illusion. He was not there to defend himself, he was there to understand them. Days turned into weeks and weeks into months, and as time passed, patterns became clearer, names fixed firmly in his mind, actions linked to consequences, and by the 6th month, there was nothing left to learn. The insults, the corruption, the betrayal, the silence, they had all revealed exactly who these people were when they believed no one important was watching. There was only one thing left to do. That Monday morning felt no different to anyone else. The same sunlight streaming through the windows, the same voices filling the air, the same careless confidence in every step and every word. But for him, it was the end of silence. He cleaned one last corridor, wiped one last desk, rinsed his mop slowly before setting the bucket aside, and without hesitation, he walked into the executive's office.
The accounts for this month are completely wrong.
Since when does a cleaner understand village finance?
I have watched you steal for 6 months.
Where did you get that expensive gadget, thief?
Chief, tell her who actually pays your salary.
My lord, we did not expect you today.
You are the billionaire founder from the city?
Cleaning your mess was my final test.
When he stepped back into the main office, the air shifted instantly, conversations dying, eyes following him with disbelief and fear. The same man they had ignored, now impossible to ignore, his presence filling the space without effort as he walked past them and entered the boardroom. Inside, the executive sat waiting, their confidence already cracking as he moved to the head of the table and sat down, placing files before him with deliberate precision, his gaze moving slowly across the room as he spoke in a calm, controlled voice. For 6 months, I stood where you believed no one important could stand. I listened to every conversation you thought was private. I watched every decision you believed would go unnoticed. And as he opened the first file, the weight of his words settled heavily. Misappropriation of funds, he said, his eyes fixed on the man responsible. You created gaps in the system and filled them for yourself, and without hesitation, terminated. Then the next, fraudulent approvals, terminated. Then another, theft disguised as operational expense, terminated. Each name called, each action exposed, each consequence delivered with precision. No anger, no raised voice, only certainty. And by the time he was done, nearly half the room had been emptied, the remaining few sitting in silence, understanding that what they had witnessed was not revenge, but judgment. And as he leaned back slightly, his expression unchanged, his voice calm but firm. Power does not change people. And after a brief pause, his eyes sweeping across the room one final time, it reveals them. And in that moment, no one spoke, because the man they had ignored, insulted, and dismissed for 6 months had seen everything, and now he had decided everything.